So do I think Stipe Miocic is going to come in with the right game plan? No, he's not.
All right, welcome to another episode of Two Fight Fans, where we talk about all things in combat sports. I'm one fight fan, Colin.
And I'm the other Stuart.
All right, we have
so much to talk about, Colin.
Yes. We got two fight cards coming up this weekend. But before we get to that, Stu, tell me, did you watch anything from this past weekend?
I did. I watched a little bit of one.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I watched Cade Rulutolo knock a dude out with the sloppiest haymaker I've ever seen. But that was cool. I saw Rod Tang in a squash match just do Rod Tang shit.
Yeah.
And then I always thought it was Rug, but I guess it's Rug. Beat Anatoly Malikin. And make me go, I want to see Rug against Francis Ngannou. That's the fight to make. Not only did I see that, I saw Carlos Praetis knock out Neil Magny very quickly.
Yeah, that was pretty. Okay, I have some questions about some of this stuff, but yeah. Carlos Praetis like making a statement at welterweight. Yeah. And
then I watched Ennis and I watched Bam Rodriguez. So I watched it all, baby.
What did it. I watched one. So Same thing. Watched the same fights that you did. I watched the co-main and the main event for the UFC card.
Mm-hmm.
I did not see Bam Rodriguez, and I saw parts of the Boots Ennis fight.
See, this is the terrible thing. The Ennis fight was not very good.
No,
it was not very good. It was a pretty bad performance.
Go ahead. It kind of looked like he just kind of cruised. It just like he already knew he won, and he already knew that he was like he could outclass this person. So it didn't look like he had any desire to like put on a show or like I don't know. He didn't seem like he was very motivated to do like have an emphatic win, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he had blamed it on because he cuts quite a bit of weight for most boxers don't cut weight a huge amount, so he blamed it on that, which like is that an excuse? He also just said like he was trying to go for the knockout towards the back half and like trying to force a knockout, even amongst like not ultra elite opponents, but like high level skilled boxers. That usually doesn't lead to a knockout. So yeah, it ended up not being like a super great fight to watch, and I was like, all right, well, this wasn't super great, but the fight that you should have watched was Bam Rodriguez.
I know, I heard, but
yeah, that's the fucking one. Like and what a great win! First guy to ever knock out Guevara or stop Guevara, and like he just looked great. Ultra aggressive. He looked great.
And you said he's what, like 23, 24, something like that?
24, man.
Damn.
He's getting better. I mean, that'll be kind of the theme of this episode is, I said it to you before the podcast, but I like the saying so much, I'm going to say it again. This is no sport for old men.
No, it is not.
This is a young man's sport. And I've got some interesting stats about the ages of people on this upcoming 309 card.
Oh, great.
But yeah, like, I mean, because the amazing thing is he's 24 and he already looks like a world beater. So by the time he's like 28 or 30, like he's going to keep getting better. You know, he's not tapped out on like his potential when it comes to skill. So Bam Rodriguez. It's worth to go back and watch that fight. And
okay.
We gotta pay more attention to him in the future because he's fucking legit, man.
Well, and if he's young, he's still at that age where he can fight like 4 or 5 times in a year. So we should be seeing him more.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully they manage his career well. I think they will. But yeah, he's phenomenal. He's great. I hope Boots Ennis. He said maybe moving up to 154, and that's where the fights really would be. Right? There's Crawford up there. There's Errol Spence. There's a bunch of people up there where he have more exciting fights. So I hope he moves up there. But this was not a great showcase performance for him, but it was for Bam. Boxing's still good. Man.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this one championship card. Were you impressed by Cade Rulatolo?
It didn't really show me much because it was like,
Mhm.
yeah, he got the knockdown, but it was like a very sloppy, wild strike, which we were
Yeah.
talking about before. How like if you are trained, and I don't know about the guy he fought, like if he is like a more orthodox, traditionally trained fighter, but like if you have some wild techniques thrown at you, you could get caught by it just because you're not expecting. It's not by the book,
Mhm.
and that kind of looked like it was just like a wild, aggressive blitz attack that caught him. And then he immediately went into default survival mode, which is just like try to grapple, try to shoot, which is not where you want to be with one of the Rutolo brothers. And the Rutolo brother,
Mhm.
he just got I think it was a Darce, but in a very awkward position where like I feel like against someone of his like who has more grappling ability would not be caught by that.
Mhm.
It just
Yeah.
it seemed very kind of like you said, like squash matches.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I mean. A lot of the UFC and the one card felt like squash matches, just like really
Mhm.
bad mismatches, which led to finishes. Right, there were a lot of finishes on this UFC card, and there were a lot of finishes on this one card. But it's like they're not like greatly impressive finishes. Like it's just
Right.
like all right. I'm excited to see more of Cade Rulatolo, but I echo everything you just said, which is yeah, it didn't really teach me anything other than like if he throws like the rainbow overhand punch and he hits someone in the face, like he has enough power to knock someone down. Just like most humans, if they're professional fighters, should be able to do that. So, all right,
Yeah.
whatever.
And the thing is, with this one championship, and with one of the former one championship champions coming over and debuting in the UFC this past weekend,
Mm-hmm.
like it's kind of like where do they go? Like, what are they going to do? Like, is Rutolo actually going to try to make a career in MMA, or is he just going to kind of do that every now and then, but mostly do like submission grappling? And
Yeah,
with some of these new tournaments and competitions popping up with submission grappling, like for him, the money might be and the clout might be more in that area rather than try to make it into MMA, where for the first couple years of his career, he might be fighting for like 20-20 or 50-50, which is not,
not yeah,
yeah, not anything like, yeah, for his stature, it's not that much.
yeah. I mean, it is cool to see him come over into MMA and like give it a try, and like again to get a TKO due to punches, like that's or to knock someone down with a big overhand, right? Like that is cool because if there is a submission grappler that is interesting within MMA, it is him. And so like it would be cool to see him come in and have an MMA fight.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
What do you
yeah.
what do you think about Rotang?
I mean, like he just did like one, he missed weight for what, like the fifth time
Yeah,
in his career. Like he just doesn't give a shit. And then he was fighting somebody who like couldn't do anything. And
yeah,
so
yeah.
Rodtang is like, I'll just kind of cruise and do my thing. So I don't know. Like I feel like for him, we need to get other. I mean, he's the highest paid Muay Thai fighter in the world, and basically ever. We need to get more challenges in there to like actually draw out some more exciting fights. Because I didn't find the fight itself, I didn't think was exciting. It's cool to see Rod Tang do shit because you're like, wow, that guy is fucking sensational. But he needs to have the right dance partner, and this was not the right dance partner at all.
Right.
Yeah. So that was my thought. I kind of like watching. I was like, all right, I'll forget this fight in about 5 seconds until Colin asked me about it. And I had to like
Right.
really plumb my memory to figure it out. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was just kind of like, okay, this is another like showcase of Rontang's ability. It was like
Yeah.
him like hitting a heavy bag again,
Yeah.
and it wasn't like a total like beatdown, although like I'm actually more impressed by that other guy's durability because he did take some like very
Yeah.
square shots, like
Yeah.
and combination work. So like I'm kind of impressed by that, but at the same time, it's like you said, like if we're watching someone, it's kind of like the whole Canelo thing. Like if we're watching someone who is like the best of the best, you want to see them, have to pull out their abilities and their skills, not someone who just kind of like who this looks like a glorified sparring match for them,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's like, yeah. I mean, akin to, like you said, Canelo or like Mayweather in certain fights where you're like, this fight didn't need to be made and you're making money off of it, which is good for you. But at the same time, it's like, it's not entertaining to watch because you're not doing anything other than what like kind of just needs to be done to safely win.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah. And then what about Rug and Anatoly Malakin? That
Yeah.
was a surprise to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay, first of all, I totally forgot until about in the third or fourth round when the commentators said something where one championship scoring is the entire fight. It's not a round by round thing. It's not like you win the first round, you win the second round, you win the third round. You score it as an entire fight.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, okay, in your mind, you could basically say, like, okay, like the first round you could count as like the first minute of a fight, of a round. So like how they win that way, but like it makes it hard to score a decision, because it is very much like, what do you remember? What stands out? And if nothing really stands out, then the only thing you'll judge it on is like the last things that happen in the fight, the last things you remember.
Mm-hmm.
So it just the rule themselves, like, because as soon as they said that, it made me like change how I was like scoring the fight, because I forgot that, and I thought like, okay, like here's this, here's that, but like, yeah, it's a new thing that I have to think about when I go into one championship fights, because I've watched like the last 4 or 5 cards we talked about, and I totally forgot about that each time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is weird, and it's another thing that makes it difficult. I actually kind of like one championship scoring criteria in that way, and they also, like, in the way boxing will score defense. Defense has a score that's supposed to be allotted, like the criteria that the judges are told about how they
Right.
should view the fight. I actually like it a little bit more than the UFC. I do wish the UFC would experiment. This is a perfect example of like what you could do with the Apex with no crowd. Try a slightly different rule set, like see if that's better to score it. Like bring back the old Pride like scoring criteria. Like see if people like that more. But yeah, it definitely changes kind of like the complexion of the fight and how you interpret it. I think either way, Anatoly Malakin didn't look great in this fight.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he looked bad. So I don't know, like anything else. I mean, like Rug is like, it's cool to see a Senegalese wrestler like be able to come over to MMA, because maybe we'll start getting like an influx of that, kind of in the way that like that Abdul Manap can't with Khabib brought a lot more Dagestani grapplers over into MMA. My biggest thing is, we had talked about this before. Like this was kind of to see like who's the biggest heavyweight outside of the UFC that could maybe have a crossfight in PFL against Francis Ngannou. And I gotta say, Francis Ngannou from Cameroon and Rug from Senegal, like that's, bro. Let's have a one PFL crossover in Africa, and let's have these two African champions fight each other at heavyweight. I think that'd be cool.
That would be great. I would love that.
Yeah, I think that's the play, man.
Yeah, and it would bring new eyes. It would bring more like just international presence to a sport. So like, yeah, and it can hopefully open the doors for more people. I think I don't see anything. I don't see a downside to it. Will it ever happen? Probably not. But
well, I don't know. It sounds like one championship is going out of business, so they might be running to the PFL to be like, "Ooh, can we get 30 cents? You can have 70 cents on every dollar. We'll take 30 just here." Right? Because the PFL also doesn't have anyone for Francis Ngannou to fight.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It's like, and now you got two big scary men. And they can fight each other. They both look like they're like fucking action figure GI Joe dolls. Like,
yeah, it's chiseled out of their fucking mind. Like,
I got no idea how Rug has that cardio for looking the way he does. I'm like, how the fuck how are you going this many rounds? I don't get it. Doesn't make sense to me. But it is what it is. So what score would you give the one card?
I mean, like, I was entertained, but at the same time, it was also like, it doesn't do much for like standings or clout or position. So I would say like a high C or low B.
Yeah, I think that's right, because it's like, I won't remember this card in a week.
Yeah,
like it's like I'm not gonna remember it. Like I watched it and I went, all right,
Like, cool. Then that was it.
Exactly. And then it ended. Which is similar to this UFC 100 Apex card.
Oh,
It was
God,
one of those
yeah.
things where you're like, all right, that's the end of that.
Hey, your boy Gaston came out with the win, though.
I read that, but I did not watch it. So that's that. I gotta say, I gotta apologize to is it Prates? Prates? How are they
Prates?
pronounced? Prates, yeah. I gotta apologize. I was unfamiliar with this dude's game. Just smoking fucking cigarettes and drinking hard liquor and eating steaks and round like he's not like a professional athlete who needs any amount of discipline. I was like, this guy's awesome. This guy's awesome. He reminds me of my barber who tells me about like how wicked like a party he had the night before and then how he woke up at 4 a.m. and had 7 cigarettes and then he's in at 6 a.m. cutting hair like a G. I'm like, God damn, that's an intense way of living, dude. And that's what Prates reminded me of. I was like, this is awesome. And then he just comes in there, knocks people out, and goes home.
Smokes Neil Magny. You're like, God, yeah.
This is great. I love it. I'm like, this guy, one of my new favorite fighters. I'm like, I was unfamiliar with your game, my man. I knew you were a good fighter, but like, it's so much cooler that you're kind of a dirtbag on the outside too. It's awesome. I love it. It's great. Man after my own heart.
There you go.
Yeah. What can we say about the fight though that he actually had, rather than his extracurricular activities?
Like that's what I was gonna ask. Like, was this a demonstration of Carlos Prates? Was that a coming out party for him, or was Neil Magny just like really bad, or was he always this bad and he just had some good matchups? Like, I don't know what to make of this one. You know, like, is Neil Magny bad? Is he washed? Is Carl Prates that good? Like, what do I make of this here?
Well, I think the secret with Neil Magny is he has been washed for a while. And Neil Magny has, I think we've talked about this, the way his style has worked recently is he fights young dudes who start kicking his ass for a round and a half. And then he somehow hypnotizes them into being like, the best thing I could do right now is to try to clinch up with him and grapple. And then they clinch up and grapple and they find like, oh, he's better in the clinch than I am. Oh shit, he's a better grappler than I am. And then he gets wins that way, right? Like, so many of his like recent wins have come with him losing pretty badly in the first round or the first few minutes. And then people going, I'm doing so well beating him standing up. I better clinch up and take this guy down. And you're like, why are you doing that? But it's just like a pattern. And then he ends up winning. Carlos Prates, though, he ain't going to fall for that shit. He's fucking... He's smoking them unfiltered cigarettes.
If he's smoking and drinking, he's like, I gotta get this done now. Like,
exactly, yeah. And he's got, I gotta say, like, he's got power. Like, that guy can thump.
Yeah.
Because he just clipped Neil Magny, which it could also be like Neil Magny's chin is definitely a lot worse than it used to be.
Yeah.
So somebody had made the point that like nobody has been a longer and more consistent top 15 gatekeeper, like preventing people from getting into the top 15 of a division than Neil Magny.
Right? Oh man.
Like he has the most wins at welterweight and he consistently has been in that. Basically, people that can't beat him never get into the top 15. He like is a perfect stalwart to keep out those people who look like they might turn into something, and then he instantly repels them. So if you can pass that test, like you have earned your right to be in the top 15, and like you probably do belong there. So, like I wasn't mega impressed by Carlos Prates because I thought he would win pretty easily anyway. It just was like this just kind of confirmed, like, oh, we all have to get through the Neil Magny door, and some people totally botch it. But Carlos Prates didn't. So I hope he eats
straight through it.
Yeah, exactly. So that was cool. Yeah, I mean, that's like good. Yeah. Did you watch any of the other fights on this Apex card?
I watched the co-main of Rene de Ritter, or
yes,
because he only because he came from one and. He had some pretty not so great things to talk about one afterwards. So yeah. So I mean, And yeah, he seemed to I think the UFC kind of threw him into the deep end. But he was able to weather the storm, and prove that he might be a worthy challenger in the near future at the craziest fucking division the UFC has. So it's always good to find new challenges that maybe can, upset DDP. I don't know what the fuck we're doing at middleweight anymore.
Hold on. First, I have to push back. Are you telling me Gerald Meerschaert is the deep end of the middleweight division?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying bringing in this guy as his first, if you were trying to build someone up to be hey, a worthy contender from another division, kind of giving them a layup in their win. I don't think Gerald Meerschaert is it. I don't think he's a supremely difficult challenge, but I also don't think that was a gimme fight for him.
Sure. I mean, the thing is, Renier de Ridder was a light heavyweight and middleweight double champion at one. And the fact that he struggled with a guy who's never even touched the top 15 at middleweight, when we have such one-dimensional bad fighters as Michel Pereira, Shara Bullet Magomedov, Paulo Costa, Roman Dolidze in that division, I don't know. I didn't watch this fight in its entirety, but I did see the final round. The sloppiness and Renier de Ridder also kind of has the Dricus du Plessis looking like a giraffe on ice skates. The way his legs move when he's throwing combinations, and I'm but whereas du Plessis seems unkillable and extremely powerful, Renier de Ridder does not seem like that. He looks like somebody who barely made it out of this fight alive, and I was like, what happens if you fight Paulo Costa, my man? Even with Paulo Costa being a head case, he's still made out of granite. You are not going to be able to withstand him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Yeah, I'm a little. I hope they put him against Shara Bullet Magomedov, because Magomedov can't grapple, and that's all Renier de Ridder can do. So it's they're the bizarro versions of each other. Where it's this one person can only strike and this person can only grapple, and they're bad at defending takedowns, and the other person's bad at getting takedowns. Maybe that'll be interesting. That kind of be cool. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was not mega impressed.
No, but yeah. We need some mix up in this fucking insane division right now.
Dude, I can't believe we're getting Sean Strickland over Khamzat Chimaev against Dricus du Plessis, especially because now with Trump being elected, Khamzat's going to be allowed to get U.S. citizenship in 5 seconds. Dana White wants it, right? All of these guys who previously could not fight in the United States due to sanctions, that's all going to go away. So
yeah, but also Sean Strickland is probably has Trump's picture on his fucking wall. So
maybe, yeah. I mean, I think they all do. Secretly.
That's
secretly, openly. But yeah. Let's not talk about the sad times. Let's talk about the good times. What else happened at the
I don't think there's gonna be any good times on the rest of this episode, man.
You don't know that. There might be. Maybe we'll die in the middle of the episode. That'll be good.
Oh, nice.
That'll make us feel better. Okay. What else happened at this Apex card?
I mean, not much. I mean, I didn't watch any of the other parts.
Okay, cool. No, then we're done. Yeah. All right, so, moral of the story is the only fight really worth watching this weekend was Bam Rodriguez. The rest
which I didn't watch.
Yeah, this was a bunch of slop. This was a slop weekend. And guess what? I know you like your slop piping hot, but this coming weekend, ask the question, what if we let the slop sit out for 40 years and get really cold? That's when you get Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson and UFC 309, which should just be called burning down an old folks' home. I've got some stats here. The oldest fighter is Stipe Miocic.
On the UFC card.
On the UFC card at 42 years old. I made a little spreadsheet with all the ages. I had to check all the ages.
Oh, man. All right.
On the UFC card. If we believe 35 is the age drop off in divisions,
okay,
the average age of all the fighters is 35.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The median age is 36.
Oh, okay.
Your main event is between a 37-year-old and a 42-year-old.
Okay.
Your
All right.
co-main event is between a 38-year-old and a 35-year-old. Your
Michael
featured
Chandler's 38?
Yeah. Your
Damn.
featured prelim is between a 40-year-old and a 39-year-old. You've got Jim Miller at 41 on this card as well. Not saying that women age out faster, because I don't know if we have enough data to support that, but like the lighter the weight, usually you age out faster. The
Yep.
two women on the main card are 38 and I'm just losing where she's at. 38 and 32, right? So we're all 30s, right? We're not having anyone really young. The youngest person is 25. This is an old person card. We have a 42-year-old, a 41-year-old, two 40-year-olds, a 39-year-old, two 38-year-olds, four 37-year-olds. Like, this is an old-ass card full of old-ass people. And I guess it's good matchmaking that we're only making old people fight. But it feels like I could just, like throw a Cracker Jack box in the middle of an old folks' home and film it, and I could get fights like this. You know what I mean? Like,
Jesus.
it's and then we got Mike Tyson at nearly 60 fighting as well.
Oh my God.
This is old people fights. But regardless of all that, we are going to pick the fights right now. We're doing it.
Okay.
We're going to talk about this. There are two topics that I want to ask you quick questions about before we pick.
Okay. I do feel since you gave me all those stats, I do feel a little bit slimier making all these picks now. Like, I feel a little bit worse.
Oh, bro, come and roll in the filth. This is MMA, man. Okay, three quick questions. One.
Oh, it's jumped up one.
It is, because I just realized there's an even slimier element to this.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
Number one, what score do you give this card on paper? UFC 309, I mean.
Oh, UFC 309. Here's the thing. They are playing to a specific group that watched fighting pre-COVID. Like, all these names that I'm interested in are people who, like, had their heyday, during, like mid 2010s,
Yeah, the Obama administration. Yeah.
Yes. Looking back to the good days,
Yeah.
And on the one hand, I'm like, oh man, this is great. Like, we're bringing it back. But fighting is not something you could just retro back, So, like, on the one hand, I love Charles Oliveira, I love Jim Miller. I have enjoyed seeing what John Jones was able to do when he was young, and yeah, it is. But then it's all going to come crashing down as soon as I start seeing them fight, I feel like. Except for Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira, I feel like it will be bringing it for a little bit longer,
Yeah, I mean, that's fight of the night. It's kind of like, I don't know if you ever saw the Scorsese movie, The Irishman, where they de-aged Robert De Niro.
No.
Right, and like De Niro, I think, was like 80 when they filmed that fucking movie, and he's supposed to be playing like a 20 or 30-year-old man, and so they de-age his face. But like, yo, when you're an 80-year-old man, how you get up out of a chair is not how a 30-year-old man gets up out of a chair, right? And it's like, I know De Niro's a great actor. I love De Niro, but I'm watching it and I'm like, I've never seen a 30-year-old move that. Like, that's not how you move. And that's what this kind of card is gonna be like.
Yeah.
So what's the score? You caveated it with, if it was the good days, but it's not the good days. We're here now. We're in the bad times.
We are in the bad times. I would give it, I think, a low C. Yeah. But because Charles Oliveira is on it, I think he's gonna save the card. Like I've never had, like, that's not true. The few times that I've been like disappointed in Charles Oliveira's fights has been like weird, fluky things that happen to him. Not fluky things, but like he gets injured in the fight, or like something happens and he's just like dropped and it just ends like right then and there, Like,
yeah. I mean, it hasn't been since. I mean, like the last Obama administration, like late 2016 when he had that, and then he went on that run. So, Yeah, no, he is legit saving this card because it is.
Yeah.
I would say like if you remove that Chandler Oliveira fight, like this is like a D or F card.
Oh,
Like
yeah, for
it's not
sure.
worth watching. Like it's just not. Which brings me to my other point. We have rallied on this or like railed on this podcast about who cares about John Jones, who cares about Stipe Miocic. But there's been this like fervor online about John Jones saying, if I did stick around after beating Stipe, I probably would only fight Alex Pereira. Because that's actually a better fight, and that doesn't mean that I'm ducking Tom Aspinall.
Yeah, so this is
Lay it on me.
Okay, so two things on that. One,
Mm-hmm.
his arguments for it are like such bullshit because basically he says like, "Oh, Tom Aspinall hasn't shown anything to prove to me that he deserves to fight me." It's like, okay, but neither is Alex Pereira at heavyweight. So like, why would you take the Alex Pereira fight? So it just makes me think like you just want to fight someone smaller than you. And it's like if you drop down to light heavyweight, then maybe okay. If you want back to light heavyweight and you wanted to challenge, Alex Pereira for his belt there, okay, then I would be more interested. But if you're saying no, he's gonna come up to me because I'm the king and the king says wherever the king fights, it's like, well, you are ducking then because he is unproven at heavyweight. He's had no fights at heavyweight, whereas this guy has won everything at heavyweight. And
it's the thing that's baffling was saying like he hasn't done much at heavyweight. As it stands, Tom Aspinall is the number 1 ranked contender. He holds first round finishes against the number 3 ranked contender, the number 4 ranked contender, the number 5 ranked contender, the number 7 ranked contender, and the number 9 ranked contender. If we start going below sub that, we're talking about Derek Lewis, Tai Tuivasa. Does he really need to beat them? Would that make his claim much better than first round finishes against Volkov, Blades, Spivak, and Tybura? And the only 2 people within the top 10 he has not fought has been Stipe Miocic, who has been inactive for nearly 4 years, and Cyril Gane. So it's like, okay, so like I'm sure he can fight Cyril Gane, and then if Stipe just stayed retired, then he's beaten everyone in the top 10. Like I don't, what are you talking about? It's wild. So okay, so you are in agreement that John Jones is ducking.
Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm. And now in ducking, because I think this is where people get confused. They hear the word ducking, and for some reason, they see D-U-C-K-I-N-G, and they think it means fear, F-E-A-R. And you're like, those are 2 different words. Do you think John Jones is afraid of fighting Tom Aspinall?
I don't think he's afraid of fighting Tom Aspinall, per se. I think he's more afraid of losing.
Mm-hmm.
Which, for some people, that's one and the same, but for John Jones, I think it's more about him and his legacy. Because I think, like, for me, he wants to be one of those guys who retires, like, at the top of the game, undefeated, whatever,
Yeah.
But if he goes against Tom Aspinall, he is literally putting his record on the line. Like, there is, like, that is a much more even fight. And I'm trying to remember the last time John Jones had a fight where the odds were pretty close. If not, he was the underdog. And I can't think of any fight off the top of my head where he was the underdog.
Yeah, I think
him and Daniel Cormier were close, but I think he was still the favorite to win.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the closest fight, I think, like, in recent memory is the Dominic Reyes fight, right? And that's one where I scored it for Reyes.
Yeah,
most people did.
But going into the fight, I don't think it was even. I think he was still a heavy favorite.
Yeah, I don't know how heavy. I think it might have been slightly less than, less of a favorite against Anthony Smith and Thiago Santos. But still, yeah, like, John Jones is never the underdog, basically.
Yeah.
I agree. Like it's absurd because like this is textbook ducking. Ducking is not taking a fight that all the fans want to see that has relevance, right? Like you can say as you're on the come up, I don't want to fight this number 1 contender because I actually think I will have a better chance to get a faster shot at the title to fight this other contender. That's not necessarily ducking. That's just like playing your career correctly. But once you're the champion and you go, I actually don't want to fight the hardest challengers. I want to fight other ones that are easier. That's ducking. You're ducking those people because people want to see you fight the hardest challenger. Yeah. So whatever happens, just know John Jones ducked Tom Aspinall. That's that. Slime. This is in New York City. Not the permanent residence, but partial residence of our now president-elect, who has made a big push in his campaign to come to UFC events. Now that he's won and doesn't need to court voters, do you think he will make an appearance? And if he makes an appearance, will it be bigger than his previous appearances on these pay-per-view cards?
Oh, why? Oh, this is not the question I wanted to be asked or thought.
Think about it.
I don't think he'll be able to go to the event because now that he is president-elect, there's a whole lot more security involved, and even though he basically said he's going to dismantle the Secret Service, they're still there. Like, I don't think there's anything that could be done, at this, and especially even though UFC crowds are very pro-Trump, New York City is not. So, like, to make this night even worse, that's like the one thing that could make it worse for me. If they fucking pan to this fucking carrot, like, wrinkly motherfucker. Like every time where I'm either watching old men getting beaten up or watching this old rapist, like, I can't. Am I gonna get in trouble for saying this now too? Like, I feel like I'm gonna like get a knock on the door from someone by just saying this now.
Maybe. I mean, you can cut that out. Just cut it.
Yeah. Okay.
For socials.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, man. It's gonna be a bummer when instead of like the for the main event, they go and now a special message, and then Donald Trump will be like, "It's so fantastic, the Stipe, it's so great," and like he goes on his fucking rant, and he's gonna have like a special message that they'll broadcast, and they'll be like, "All right, thank you, President-elect Trump." That's because that.
Oh God, you think that's what's gonna happen?
Yeah, man.
Oh my God, you get a bonus point if
no, man.
There's a fucking special broadcast.
We all take minus 50 HP damage and take 2 levels of exhaustion. This is what happens, right? Like we're fucked. Anyway, all right. Let's move on to the picks.
All right. Yeah. So, let's do it.
We're doing 5 picks. We're doing the main event from both this card and the Jake Paul Mike Tyson card. We will then do the co-main event of 309, and then 2 picks of our choices. From each of us. So, let's start with John Jones and Stipe Miocic. Before you give me your pick, I'd like you to try to tell me what you think the game plan is for Stipe Miocic to beat John Jones.
God, I am trying to go back in the archives of my brain. I'm going into my mind palace to try to remember how the fuck does Stipe Miocic fight?
Like just like meat and potatoes, baby. 1-2s, occasionally a double leg, and like the most standard. I've got a basic takedown. I got basic takedown defense. I've got okay grappling, and I've got okay boxing. And that's all it takes, baby.
Yeah, fuck. Like he's not working with much, like, oh God. If he was younger, maybe he can just kind of turn it into a more like dirty boxing fight and like try to press John Jones up against the cage and just kind of wear him down that way. Where the range, the striking of John Jones isn't as much of a factor, and like using the takedowns and using the ground game, trying to neutralize that by making John Jones be pressed up with his back against the cage. But like, really, he would have to just use his size, in the like to do this. Like, and I'm referring back to John Jones when he was like a light heavyweight. And he was younger. But he's not going to have that. And he's not going to have youthful energy to just like press forward, to absorb the strikes that John Jones will throw, whether that's a jab or that like that front instep, like thrusting kick to the knee, his eye pokes, like He's not going to have that, and that's really the only place I see Stipe actually having success. Because if he just tries to trade in the middle, it's not going to work against John Jones's reach and his like technical striking ability. I don't think he's going to be able to take John Jones down, and I don't think he can fight off of his back against John Jones. So there's literally nowhere to go. So yeah, I don't see it.
Well, but what would you tell him? Like he calls you right now. He's like, "Give me the game plan, Colin. What's your game plan?"
Tag Tom Aspinall in.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, really, that is really like. I feel like that's all he can do. You know, he's gonna have to put pressure on and try to corner Jones and back him up against the cage, like, and to cut off his range, to cut off his wrestling and grappling ability, and just make it a dirty, like, not pretty, not technical affair. You know, and when he's leaning up against the cage and trying to like just throw little shots to wear John Jones down, make him carry your weight, and people are booing, like that's all you can do. Like that's all you got to do, and just try to build little bits of damage here and there while minimizing your own. Like that's I really don't have. Stipe doesn't have any of those techniques or like secret moves that will put John Jones on defensive. You know, like he's got some power, but I don't think he has the combination work that will catch John Jones like that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think talking about power and combination work, I think that's the thing that like actually is because we never saw John Jones fight like a really like explosive, heavy hitting kickboxer. The closest was Thiago Santos and Dominic Reyes.
Yeah.
And they both were former middleweights, kind of already on the decline. And that's where he struggled the most. Because throughout his career, he never fought someone who was like a really solid kicker, especially a really solid leg kicker, who then could follow up with explosive punching in combinations. That's why the Rumble Johnson fight would have been so interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Because, right, like he fought Alexander Gustafsson, who can hit hard because he's a light heavyweight, but he's mostly like just combination punches, but he's not kicking a ton. And John Jones had a hard time in their first fight. Thiago Santos was a hard time. Daniel Cormier started doing more combination punching in their rematch and had more success than in their first fight. I think if you are Stipe's team, you have to tell him you have to just be constantly calf kicking, and then every time he strikes, because John Jones doesn't throw combinations, right? He
That's
throws
true.
like I throw a kick, now a jab, now a cross, now a spinning kick, right? It's like one single technique, but he's got like 900 to go to, but he'll just cycle through those. It's like if I was Stipe's team, I'd be like, you have to just keep throwing leg kicks, and the second he fires, you have to just immediately come back with a 3-punch combination. Because Stipe is the hardest puncher John will have ever faced. Now, John is possibly the most durable human that's ever fought in the UFC, and we have to give credit to John Jones. He apparently, like, he does his own tape study and will come to his coaches and tell them, hey, we need to work on this shit, and they're like, oh my God, I didn't even see that on the tape. Like, he does have a brain for seeing how people fight and immediately, like, breaking it down and figuring out the right way to game plan. He's an extremely smart fighter. So that would have to be the game plan if I was Stipe's team. Now, here's the issue. Everyone knew that you have to hit Daniel Cormier in the body. He hates it. People had pointed it out. Even Daniel Cormier had said in an interview before he went up to heavyweight when he rematched John Jones. John Jones is going to try to kick me in the body and then kick me in the head, and I have to stop that because he knows that I don't like being kicked in the body. Everyone knew it. When Stipe Miocic in their fights started doing combination work to the body in the 4th round, his coaches later came out and said, we didn't tell him to do that. Stipe just decided to do that during the fight. His team had not scouted a well-known chink in Daniel Cormier's armor. So do I think Stipe Miocic is going to come in with the right game plan? No, he's not. And it's so fucking frustrating because how cool of a world would it be if Stipe Miocic beat John Jones? That'd be so cool.
Well, that's what I was saying. This would have made way more sense back in 2019.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, no, look. Hey, John Jones definitely just sat out and was like, I'm not going to go to heavyweight until the weakest it's ever been is there, right? He's like, I'm not going up and fighting Daniel Cormier, Stipe Miocic, Cain Velasquez for Fabricio Verdum. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until it's Cyril gone. I'm not gonna fight Francis Ngannou. It's like, dude. Yeah. Anyway, and now he's like, oh, this is for legacy. This is for legacy. Because if I beat the greatest heavyweight on paper in the UFC, I become the greatest. In the same way that Jake Paul knocking out Mike Tyson will make him just as good as Mike Tyson. It's nonsense. Nonsense. So who wins, Colin? And how does that person win?
Yeah, I'm gonna say John Jones, but I think he's gonna win by decision.
Oh, really? Decision? Okay.
Yeah, because like,
did you see Stipe Miocic hobbling out to the cage last time he was like,
yeah, that's true.
Event?
Yeah, and it is. Yeah, and we talk about ring rust, with and like 4 years, like that's. I don't even know if Stipe ever had ambitions or thoughts that he would eventually return, or if he was just like, fuck it. Like,
he had come out after that loss to the Francis Ngannou fight, and then when Francis left the UFC, he like had an actual like public, I think on social media, saying like, I'm retired, I'm just going to be a firefighter now.
Yeah.
And now this payday kind of fell into his lap, and he's like, fuck it, why not? Like, yeah, it does not seem that he was like chomping at the bit to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So John Jones' decision. Do you think it's going to be primarily contested on the feet or grappling?
I think there's going to be like a lot of kind of like you said, like there's going to be like one strikes, like point fighting, and then there'll be like your cursory takedown or leg trip, and he'll get Stipe down and like we'll hold him down and advance a couple positions and maybe land some of his elbows, but nothing like how he's done before, where he's like, where when he's gone on top and just like absolutely brutalized people on the ground, Yeah,
he does have terrifying ground and pound, and that's why I think he will be able to take Stipe Miocic down, like the rusted automaton he is. I think a second round TKO by ground and pound with elbows was probably, especially because John Jones' favorite 12-6 elbow. It's here. It's back now, baby. He can use it.
Do you think he'll do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? I think second round TKO John Jones.
All right.
Yeah, I think. Here's my thing. If it is a decision, I'll call it now, and you're right on that. Like, if it is a decision, this is going to be a boring battle.
Oh, I think it's going to be a boring fight.
Yeah, this could be a snooze fest. And probably, like if you had to like give it odds, like it's the majority of scenarios playing out would make it a snooze fest.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. All right. So that's one old man fight. Let's talk about another old man fighting.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. We talked about this last week. We never made an official pick, but let's hear it. Now it's on the record. What do you think is actually going to happen in this fight?
Yeah. Well, no, give me your thoughts. I picked first for Jones and Miocic, so you have to pick first for our second old man fight.
Yeah, we talked about this. We all see Jake Paul's deficiencies when it comes to the skill of boxing. He isn't, as Mike Tyson so eloquently put it, a natural-born killer. Like Mike Tyson is. But Mike Tyson is a 58-year-old man, and I'm sorry, this isn't an anime. This isn't a Marvel movie. You don't get the old master, like fucking Luke Skywalker, coming out there and putting on a cool thing, or like Yoda doing flips. This is real life. Old men get hurt by young men. I think Jake Paul, I think Mike might have some good life in him in the first round. I think by the fourth or fifth round, Jake's going to put Mike Tyson away.
Oh, okay.
I think, and you know what? I think it might be exciting for the first round, and then the next 2 or 3 rounds are going to suck ass and be super boring as Jake Paul gets his legs back under him. And then by that time he gets his legs back under him and is feeling good, Mike Tyson will be tired, and then Jake Paul will land a big hit on him, and we're all going to be very, very sad.
All right. What are you saying? 4th or 5th round knockout?
Ooh, I'll say Mike will not come out the 6th round, so I guess I'll say 5th round.
Okay. So it'll be a like quarter stoppage. Like he won't get up off the chair. All right.
God, it might be. I don't know. I think it doesn't end before the start of the 5th round bell, but we will not get a 6th round bell.
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that. Yeah.
All right. So, I am right there with you. I think in the very beginning, it's going to be a little exciting. I think we're going to see flashes of Tyson like using his head movement, using that trunk movement. At one point, he'll like slip under and like do a combination that swarms Paul. And whether Jake Paul covers up or gets clipped with something and kind of has to run away against the ropes, like everyone will cheer and people will be standing up. It'll be great, you know. It'll be a brief moment where I'm like, yes, kill that YouTuber. And like, you know, my mother raised me to never wish ill upon someone. However, in that moment, I will.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
But I think it's gonna be just as you said. He's gonna fire out. But I do think I think Paul might get a knockdown as well. But I think he'll just cruise to a decision because it will be one of those things where like I don't think he will want to put away Mike Tyson. And like you said, he's not a natural born killer, so he'll just do enough to point away.
Yeah.
So I think he'll win by decision.
Okay. Interesting.
Like there will be multiple times where we think like, hey, like put on the pressure. Like you can finish this. Like if there's like a regular boxing fight, we'd be like, hey, like you can end this now. And either A, because Jake Paul doesn't want to do that because, you know, he has respect for Tyson or wants to like just draw this out for the view or whatever, you know, or if he's like legitimately like, I'm actually like, kind of scared. Like, because if I overreach and I get clipped, like I'm fucking dead, you know? Yeah. Like I can see it either way being him wanting to play it safer and just kind of like staying at range and just like peppering out shots, you know? So
yeah,
that's kind of how I see the last like 2 to 3 rounds playing out. Because there's also only 8 rounds and they're each 2 minutes. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, like the smart money is saying it goes decision and it's boring and shitty the whole way through, right? Like, yeah. I mean, the smart money for both of these fights is a boring, shitty decision that actually doesn't mean anything because John Jones and Stipe are going to retire, and like, who cares about Jake Paul and Mike Tyson? Just going to go back to being retired. So like, who cares? What feudal energy? I mean, like. Anyway, whatever. Who gives a shit? Yeah. This is who cares? But let's actually talk about a fun fight then.
Yes, let's do it.
Co-main event, the people's main event of UFC 309. We're talking about Chucky Olives. He's back, baby, and so is after a 2-year layoff in which. Yikes. Who knows why he sat around? I think he was waiting for someone. I don't know. Godot, Guffman, who could say? Michael Chandler's back.
Wow.
Yeah, like that.
Jesus.
Little surrealist Irish playwriting poll right there. Okay. Michael Chandler, Charles Oliveira. We've seen this fight before. Colin.
Yeah, I forgot that they fought before once.
Oh, really?
Until you said, like, I think, 2-3 episodes ago? Yeah, we've seen this fight before. I'm like, wait, we have? And I looked back like, oh, yes, we did. Yep. And that's how Chuck Norris became lightweight champion.
Exactly. So, Colin, how much is this fight going to look like that first fight?
I think I think it will be very similar, but I don't think Michael Chandler will knock Charles Oliveira down and almost win that fight in the first round. I think it'll be more like even-ish in the first round, but I think Charles Oliveira will gain the upper hand, gain his rhythm, and then just put him away again in the second round. Whether that's by TKO or by submission, I think it could be either. Like, I think he'll stun him like he's done many times, like knock him down, and then as Michael Chandler's like trying to escape, he like turns his back towards it and tries to get up towards the cage, and then like a steel trap, he's just going to snatch onto that back and get a rear naked choke. So
in what round? First, you mean?
Second round. Second round. I will say second round submission this time.
Interesting. Yeah. It is interesting you say he's not going to get dropped in the first round, because I'll remind you, Chucky Olives got knocked down in the first round against Chandler to come back and win in the second.
Oh, that's what I mean. It's not going to be a repeat of that.
Oh, yeah. But what I'm saying is that did happen last time with Chandler. He was knocked down in the first round against Poirier, and then he came back in the third to win by submission. And he was knocked down in the first by Gaethje to come back and win by submission. Chucky Olives has a pattern of getting knocked down in the first round and then being like, and then I get you by submission. I think that same shit's going to happen here. I think he's going to get knocked down by Chandler again. And then I think he's going to come back and snatch up actually, I think it's going to be a KO or TKO. In the second round. I think Chandler is going to have a little bit of ring rust. We know Chandler doesn't ever fight really with a game plan. He just kind of comes out and goes buck wild, and then he goes so hard that his body kind of explodes in the cage, and then he just crumples. And I think that same thing's going to happen. It's going to be a round and a half of ultra violence, but I think Charles Oliveira he's just too slick, and he's not old. Chandler's 38, man. Like, he's just getting old. Yeah, I think this fight might look almost like an exact replay of their first fight.
Okay.
Yeah, I get that feeling. Technically, like, looking at all of the facts, like Chandler being off for 2 years, he's going to have ring rust, which means his timing, it's going to take longer for him to get his timing in range, which will give Charles Oliveira the chance to, like, pepper him with hard strikes faster at the beginning. So it should be that he never actually is in that trouble. But I think Oliveira is a little bit of a slow starter and has a hard time, especially with dynamic strikers initially, and gets wobbled. So, yeah, I think second round TKO, Charles Oliveira.
Okay. All
right. So we've picked 3 fights. 2 of them depressing. 1 kind of an unnecessary rematch, but here we are.
Yeah. I think this is just more the UFC throwing Chandler a bone. Like, all right, like, here you go. Here's a fight. Like, good luck, I guess.
I guess. Is this really a bone for him?
It's not a bone. It is more like, it's a bone that, like, hey, if you win, you're in title contention.
Yeah, I mean, they could just give him a title shot if they wanted to actually throw him a bone.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Or if you're like, oh, man, I really wanted to take on a star that isn't, like, I mean, Conor McGregor, as much as his star is fading, he still is a big name where you get some rub. And he does seem like a very easy fight for Chandler to win at this point in McGregor's career. If you wanted to throw him a star from the British Isles that Chandler should be able to beat at 155, we all know the name. We know who else they could give him. Paddy the Baddy. Why didn't they throw him that bone? Come on, man. Like, that's throwing him a bone. This feels like he's getting taken advantage of, and he doesn't know it, and he's so fucking brainwashed. He's like, I'm not being taken advantage of, and you're like, oh man, they're chopping you up into little pieces right now to, like, grind you into cat food, and you just can't recognize it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but kind of good riddance. He's a bit of a scab and a bootlicker, so whatever. Let's go chuck the olives. Ride or die with my man. Yeah. Anyway, all right. What are your what is the first of your other 2 fights that you're picking, and who are you picking?
So let me ask: are there any stipulations on some of these fights? Like, I know in the past we've said, like, okay, like, I'm not picking the Bo Nickel fight because that's 1,000. There's 1,000 odds there. Like, what the shit again?
You could pick the Bo Nickel fight if you pick Paul Craig and had courage.
They had courage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
Yeah. And since you've brought that up, I'm going to tell you, one of mine is I'm picking Paul Craig.
Yeah, boy. Okay.
Do I think Paul Craig will actually win? Probably not, but I have courage. And if you aren't willing to say, I think the Scottish man who goes by the phrase Bear Jew is going to be able to submit Bo Nickel, then you are a ghost haunting your own life. Have some courage, have some balls, pick Paul Craig.
All right, since you already got your pick, all right, tell me. So you think he's going to submit Bo Nickel?
I do. I think he's going to submit Bo Nickel. I think Bo Nickel. Here's what Paul Craig does. Paul Craig is he's got, like, the drunken style. He has submission wins over Magomed Ankalaev after getting his ass beat for 3 rounds.
Oh yeah,
he has a submission win over heavyweight Kennedy Njoku. He has a submission win over Jamal Hill after Jamal Hill was kicking the shit out of him. Actually, it wasn't a submission win. It was a TKO win due to ground and pound. he has a submission win against Nikita Krylov after getting like kicked to shit by Nikita Krylov. What happens is people kick the crap out of him, and then they're like, I can take this guy down and finish it. And they fall perfectly into a triangle choke, or they fall perfectly into an armbar. I think Bo Nickel smells his own farts and thinks, I totally got this. And he's going to be beating the paste out of Paul Craig. And then Paul Craig's going to throw up a triangle. And oh, snap. There we go. My 1,000 or my plus 1,000 payout is going to come to me. Paul Craig. That's exactly right. He's winning. I think triangle choke. I think second round.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Now, will I get that wrong? Yeah, man. The bookies know I'm wrong, but sometimes you gotta stand for something, and I stand for Paul Craig and not Bo Nickel being an absolute weirdo, and that's that.
Perfect. I love it. Yeah. I love it. All right, great. So again, I feel like I should have learned from my last picks here. Mm-hmm. But this time, I'm still with these two picks I'm doing. These are all deep plum picks. These are all loins wanting picks. Mm-hmm. My first one is the Jim Miller versus David Jackson fight.
Nice.
All right. I'm rooting for my boy Jim Miller. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say he is going to get a first round submission.
Okay.
I don't know what he's going to get, but he's going to get a first round submission. I don't know. I just feel it.
All right. Our 41-year-old Jim Miller. Now, the nice thing is Damon Jackson is 36. They both have similar miles on their bodies. So this is that's not a bad pick. That's not a bad pick.
I feel like he's going to lull me into this weekend thinking, yes, the old men can do it. And then it's like, oh, no, it's just Jim Miller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hopefully. I mean, I would like to see him win. He didn't get a fight at UFC 300.
I know.
Bobby Green fight rather than Paddy Pimblett. Here's the thing. If you are like a fighter at 155, you should be fighting Paddy Pimblett. That's just the answer. Because he can't keep getting away with fighting absolute scrub nubbins. Like, I need a real fighter to get in there. Yeah. But Jim Miller, good. I'm going to stick right there with the old man fight. Probably the most depressing old man fight. More depressing than the Jake Paul.
I knew you were going to pick this one.
More than John Jones Stipe. Dude, ultra washed Chris Weidman against never good and yet also ultra washed Eric Anders fight. This is going to be, well, hold on. Mickey Gall is fighting, so I gotta be careful. This will be one of the two worst fights on this card. Bar none. This fight's gonna suck ass and make all of us sad. And it's gonna be worse because Eric Anders is going to squeak out a decision against Chris Weidman, mostly because Chris Weidman is so shot that he doesn't really throw anymore. He doesn't throw punches really. Every now and then he'll do the 1-2 eye poke, Three Stooges bit, but he just doesn't throw. And Eric Anders throws just a tiny bit more. Mm. This fight's going to be bad. Eric Anders by decision.
Eric Anders by decision. Okay.
Yeah. Did you see Chris Weidman being like, oh man, my high school son now can like, when he pitches, because his son plays baseball, like I can't hit a ball off of him. And he's like, it really made me rethink, like maybe I'm too old to play sports. And I'm like, bro, that's some like real white boomer dad energy to be like, I have to always be able to homer off of my son, despite the fact that my son is continually growing towards peak athletic prime, and I'm continually falling ever away from peak athletic prime. And the fact that like he's like, oh no, I can't fucking like hit my kids' pitches. Maybe I should stop being a professional athlete. It's like, bro, if that's your thought pattern, I'm not saying do ayahuasca or go to therapy, but like do one of those things. You know what I mean? Like do something.
You know, as a side tangent, there is a series I follow, like I think it's on Instagram, where like it's the exact thing. It's white dads racing their sons every like year for their birthday, and every year I just hope like, man, one of these days this dad is gonna like tear his Achilles, like rip his hamstring, like rip every ligament in his knee while his son like didn't warm up and like beats him across the finish line. And that dad's going to be hobbled around the house for the better part of the year because he tried to beat his son in a foot race. And like, I
Yeah.
remember when I became more athletic than my dad. It happens. It just fucking happens. Like, come
Yeah.
on.
It's so well, and like here's the thing, man. Like it happened for you years ago, man.
Yeah.
Think what 1, 2. So he has 7 losses. In his last 10 fights, there have been 7 losses and 3 victories. Those 7 losses are TKO, KO, TKO, KO, KO, leg break.
Oh,
Like,
God.
right? None of those are like, ooh, well, you kind of almost made it. Like, you're like, bro, you shouldn't be swinging a baseball bat at your son's pitch because your shoulder might dislocate. Like, it's time. It's time, my man. Like, it's time. And it's the same with Eric Anders too. Like, yeah. But we talked about this when we first went ranting on middleweight. It's like Chris Weidman remembers how he used to be able to perform, and then he sees Dricus Du Plessis, and he's like, "Fuck that! I can beat that guy. Like, I know that I can do that, right?" And you're like, "Yeah, I know you could have in your prime, Chris Weidman, but you're 10 years past your prime, dude. You know, like you're 10 years away from it." Anyway, so Eric Anders' decision, it's going to be sad. It's going to be terrible. I don't feel good picking this. I feel gross. But daddy needs to eat. So I need to make a pick. There we go. Yeah.
All right. Now, my question to you is my last pick. Does it have to be on this UFC card?
No, man. It could be. I should have picked the Katie Taylor Serrano fight because that's one that actually matters.
Yeah.
But I didn't. So yeah, it could be anything on the fight cards this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I am going to pick the Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano.
Ooh, okay.
And having not known much about these fighters, I'm just rooting based on what you said, because you said Katie Taylor's the one who got like boxing or women's boxing like in the Olympics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I gotta root for her. Like I just have to root for her. And apparently they fought once before, right?
Yeah.
Katie Taylor and like she was like badly hurt or like did she get knocked down or something in like the middle of their fight, but she was able to like rally back, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd also preface it like I had scored it for Amanda Serrano. Yeah, she did walk away with the split decision victory.
Yeah. So, and this is kind of a tale of like technique versus like power, right? Because Amanda Serrano is a heavier hitter than her.
Well, Amanda Serrano is a lighter fighter. Katie Taylor is a bigger fighter, and Amanda Serrano is a little bit harder hitting. I think she does have more knockouts overall, but she is fighting at a lighter weight class, so when she moves up, the power doesn't carry perfectly. And I wouldn't say it's a tale of like power versus technique. These are the two most technically savvy women's boxers alive currently. Katie Taylor's a little bit, I think, physically bigger. Amanda Serrano's a little bit faster. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you are picking that fight because you're totally wrong, and it's going to be Amanda Serrano.
Yeah.
So that's that. But yeah, no, it's a good fight. I mean that and the tale of this weekend is not only old people deserve to entertainment. It is that the co-main events of both of these cards are the real main events.
Main events. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really like Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, and then Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler. Like those are the most interesting fights this weekend. And then we get in rando boomer dads who try to race their sons to watch John Jones and Mike Tyson because they're like, I remember that like 10 years ago when I had hair. No disrespect to any bald people out there. Like I'm gonna lose my hair one day too. Like we all will. Time comes for us all. But yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, cool. We've gotten a wide array of picks. If all of my picks are wrong, but Paul Craig does submit Bo Nickel, nothing will be able to touch me. My heart will be so filled with joy that it'll be okay. Yeah, and I hope you all can find that joy within you. That sort of joy only Paul Craig can bring you. All right, everybody. Anything else about these cards? Any other fights like you want to just like call out because you're like, that's a cool fight?
Maybe Mario Barrios on the boxing.
Oh yeah.
Right,
like that should be entertaining.
Yeah.
Right? Like Jonathan Martinez being back, coming off his loss to Aldo, like against Marcel McGee. That should be a fun
I'd like to see that. Yeah. Hopefully he bounces back because he was like, I like Jonathan Martinez, and he was like, man, he was like distraught after his loss to Jose Aldo. Like,
Yeah. Oh man, it's like looking at the face of God and realizing you'll never be that. It's hard. Like it's a rough time.
damn.
Yeah, it's kind of the Salieri Mozart thing. You know what I mean? Like it's like you just go like, well, like I actually questioned my faith in the divine power when I faced someone like that. So yeah, hopefully he snaps back. Yeah. The interesting fight. I mean, there's some truly stinker bad ones on here. Chris White and Eric Andrews is terrible. Marcin Tybura versus Janata Diniz. Mickey Gall. Yeah. Mauricio. It's pronounced Huffy, not Ruffy. And then James Wallentop. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Whatever. So whatever. Cool. All right.
The drought continues. The drought continues.
Oh man, and like the rest of the fights this year are not super great either. I mean, we do have Usyk and Fury to look forward to, which is great.
Yep.
I like that. And I am interested to see Kaya Sakura, but that's for later. We have to get through old people being harmed this weekend. And yeah, maybe have the oldest president elect make a special appearance. There's gonna be a lot of old people.
You.
Hey man, I'm not the one doing it. I'm here. I reached out to you on this podcast being like, doesn't it hurt your feelings that like all the messaging we get when we watch this is like clearly meant for people that we are not, and it makes you go like, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. I think I've entered the wrong house party. This is not where I was meant to be. Yeah. All right. Well, this has been 2 Fight Fans podcast. I'm 1 Fight Fan Stuart.
I'm the other Colin.
And here's the thing we have to do, everybody. Join us on Friday. This is going to be most likely John Jones's last fight. I mean, it's like 99% sure it's going to be John Jones' last fight. As much as I might detest who he is as a person, he is one of the best MMA fighters to ever do it and had a truly like remarkable, unparalleled career. So we have to do a career retrospective on John Jones. The only person I think probably to defeat 3 generations of top contenders in his division. The closest other one would be George St. Pierre, but he left a little too soon to see him fully clear out like the Robbie Lawlers and the Rory McDonalds. John Jones, however, stuck around. And so here we are. We're going to do a retrospective on his very long and very impressive career. So join us then. We'll also talk about all the other weird things that have gone on in his career, maybe. Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.